If you are a parent of an athlete, I want you to hear this. You are already your kid's most powerful mental performance coach. It's not me. It's not their strength coach. It's not their varsity coach. It's you. The way you talk in the minivan, at the dinner table, and after games is literally wiring your athlete's brain for either confidence or anxiety. That is a lot of pressure, and it's kind of daunting. And that's why I created my free email course called the Resilient Parents Playbook. In it, I walk you through the 5 most common mistakes we make as sports parents, and I give you simple, practical tools to fix them. You'll learn how to praise effort and attitude instead of just results, how to handle the car ride home, and how to help your kid manage nerves and pressure in a healthy way. It's completely free. Just hit the link in the show notes and grab the Resilient Parents Playbook and start becoming the kind of mental coach your athlete actually needs at home.
This is the Mental Mettle Podcast, where we explore how to forge mental toughness and resilience in every aspect of life. Welcome, I'm your host, Coach Matt Toman. I'm an ICF certified professional coach with a background as a teacher, basketball coach, and athletic director. But my journey took a dramatic turn in 2020 when I survived both cancer and a stroke. Those experiences shaped my mission, help others grow stronger in every facet of life. Today, I work with athletes, coaches, educators, and anyone who believes that positive mental health is both achievable and a personal responsibility. This podcast is dedicated to helping listeners develop a positive version of toughness, one rooted in resilience, focus, and growth. Whether you're looking to excel on the field, in the classroom, or in life, this is your space to learn, grow, and take action. Join me on this journey, and together, let's forge your mettle.
All right, welcome back. It's the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Toman, and I'm very thankful you are here today. And my first thing right out of the gate, yes, a little gratitude. Thank you for the growth of the podcast, which continues to grow. Just posted the other day, I've gotten over, just with the audio portion, over 10,000 downloads. That's not to mention the downloads with YouTube, the video portion. And I'm just beyond thankful and so much gratitude in that, because it takes listeners to make that happen. I can't make that happen on my own. So thank you so much. And so I'm going to follow up the gratitude with a big ask, and hopefully I have a reason for more gratitude. And that is, wherever you're listening, hit a like, hit a share, hit a subscribe, or even better yet, find your favorite episode, send it to somebody, a coach, a player, a parent, and send it to somebody and say, hey, check it out. Last week's episode with McKenna McKee, Olympic athlete and diabetic who trains and works, preaching that idea and helping with a organization for athletes with diabetes, and just the idea that, hey, you can do this and you can compete with diabetes, and shows people to do that. She's a 16-time national champion and an Olympic hopeful, and was diagnosed with diabetes at age 6. That was last week. And I say that because I had a listener that knew someone that had a young child that was into athletics that was recently diagnosed with diabetes, and the entire family was struggling. And, this was a very new development for them. The podcast came out, they shared it with them, and they felt like that was a really, it was a God thing that I had talked to that McKenna McKee and talked about that idea. And I'm with them. I think that I just keep putting things out there, and listeners like you share it with others, and it helps people. And the ripples from the show and the work that I'm trying to do just starts, they really start making waves and getting bigger. And that's not a pride thing for me. That's a And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's what I want to see. So do me a favor, hit that like, share, subscribe, share it with somebody. I would really appreciate it. So my guest today, his name is Dave Jones, or sometimes goes by Dr. Dave Jones. He does have a PhD, and Dave is a unique guy. And I really say unique because he's a former pro hockey player. He's an Air Force veteran. He's a sports and performance psychologist. He owns a Christian marketing agency. He's an author of one book with the second one coming out. And he the width of the things that he's done and experienced is really unique. And it's obviously he's a guy that doesn't sit down much, and he's always working because he's accomplished all these things and does all these things. And what's really cool is he found me. He heard about my podcast, wanted to jump on, and he's, promoting his book, but he and I end up having just a phenomenal conversation. Dave likes to talk about, one, his faith and his faith in Christ, and how that's something he leans into, something he practices, and how that becomes something he really focuses on. And that is something he focuses on and gets away from what we do the opposite of, which is leaning into what he calls the toxic motivators, the 4 of them: fear, lust, anger, and pride. And he talks about these toxic motivators, and it sounds so similar to the things that I talk about when I talk with athletes about their inner voice and how they talk to themselves, and how a lot of times we think this, things like fear and anger they can sometimes be the default we have in our voice because we think it gets us up and gets us moving. Like, I have to have that fear of failure, or I have to have anger at myself for not getting my workout in or not getting things done. And it becomes, whether or not it's on purpose or not, but we allow it, and we allow that to happen. And we use that as the motivator because sometimes it works. It works in the short term. And if you listen to my podcast, you've heard me say this in the past, that fear, or a negative voice, is a great short-term motivator with long-term consequences. And he's saying the same thing here that I am. And we get into how you have to get away from that fear and lean into faith. And when you do that, and when you have that faith, and that's part of your vision, it guides you and helps you know what you are beyond your sport, beyond your business. It helps you clarify what your identity is, and gives you that vision, and moves forward in a positive way, gets away from those toxic motivators and into faith. And it's just, he'll explain it so much better. It's a really great conversation. I'm so thankful that Dave found me and jumped in. So enjoy the podcast, enjoy the interview with Dr. Dave Jones.
Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient, persistent, and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness, using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Toman, at Mental Mettle Coaching. All right. Welcome back to the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host here, Coach Matt Toman. I'm here with my guest today, Dr. Dave Jones. Dave, thanks for joining me. I sure appreciate it.
It's an honor to be here, man.
It
really is an honor to be here. So thanks for having me.
I sure appreciate that. I love you say that, and then I've been doing the podcast about 2 years now, and it's starting to be, I get people like you that find me and reach out and be like, want to be on the show. And man, that always makes me feel good that I must be doing something right.
Yeah, man. You're crushing it. You're crushing it for G.
It's great.
I love it.
It's great. It's great. It's amazing how often I can make a pretty good delineation between some of the growth I've seen in the podcast and my decision to, and we're going to get into this, my decision to be like, it's all right to take this podcast about mental toughness and mental health and actually talk about faith on it. And it's amazing how when you do things like that, God is like, okay, we'll help you out then.
Yeah, it's interesting, my story. Like 13 years ago, I said, you know what? I really want to chase faith and I want to chase mental toughness. And so I just recently got my doctorate in the sport and performance psychology. And the whole time, Matt, like I thought that the academic world was going to push back on me. But
right.
The whole time there, it's just like, hey, we want for this class to be authentic. We want you to communicate your feelings and tell us who you are. And so I would just, I'd wait patiently and they'd come around to me and say, who are you and what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a right-wing Bible-toting, gun-carrying Christian. And I run one of the largest Christian ad agencies in the world. And this is who I am. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay, John, on the next you, like there was just no pushback, and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. I can just be authentically who I am in Christ and share my values, and either people get it or they don't. It's okay. We just move on.
Well, it's amazing. It's kind of interesting that you say that, because I do think that there's sometimes that when we put ourselves out there like that, we're on some level bracing for a fight. But that is I think that's because you're bracing for a fight on the fight that you would get on like a social media post.
Right.
But like the world we see on social media is not the world we actually run into when we talk to people. And that's a whole nother conversation maybe for another time. But yeah.
Yeah. Which really leads me, I know there's a lot to talk about, but which leads me into these toxic motivators that are out there that are just holding us back. The fear, the lust, the anger, and pride, they are prevalent in our lives. And I was talking about this earlier today. If you were to take the enterprise of fear and look how much money is being driven for fear versus faith and love. It's almost like an unfair fight. Or if you take lust, how much money is being driven towards lust, right? Versus gratitude and being grateful. Yeah. If it was an enterprise and there were dollars to convince you which way to go, these toxic motivators are just everywhere trying to deter us and feeling fulfilled.
I know. I want to get into that, but I want to give a little bit about your background here, because there's a couple pieces in your background that I find very intriguing. Whenever I look at some of your background, and it talks about how you've done some professional hockey.
Yeah.
And you're also an Air Force alum.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you can have time for both of those. And I would really, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those are those things, wanting to go play hockey and wanting to be in the Air Force, they feel like two different
lives
of life that contradict. If I do one, I can't. It's kind of like some people would have this choice where I can do this or I can do that, and I can't do both. And somehow in your resume, you've got both. And I'd love to know how that happened.
Well, it's even crazy. I'm 52 now, so it's more of if you start thinking about the timelines, you're absolutely right. But when I was 28, I was a former professional hockey player, U.S. veteran. How do you do that at 28?
Well, that was okay. then I'm asking you. Don't ask me how you did that.
Yeah. So here's what happened. So I played hockey in the North American Junior Hockey League for Cleveland. This was back in 1990. So I went the high school route. I went up to Canada and played, and then I played for Cleveland. I got a slap shot in the face that broke my nose in 3 different directions, deviated septum, cut the nerves with my teeth in my mouth in Kalamazoo K-Wing Stadium. It was an awful experience. I don't know how anybody. I mean, I'm sure there's other levels of pain that are more painful than that, but this was pretty deep. This was
I
bad.
mean, yeah.
This was
Well,
pretty
it's
bad.
funny that when they have these metrics or these indices on pain, because they always put like childbirth and they'll like compare
Right.
it to things, but they don't have hockey puck to the face,
Hockey
because
puck
that's
to the
not.
face.
It's got to be high, but it doesn't happen enough for people to reference that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's so I felt, I don't know if people out there listening, know hockey rink, but I fell at the top of the face-off circle, screaming, "My nose is in my brain, my nose is in my brain," and I glided to the end of the goal line, or to into the goal line. And the trainer came out with a white towel and put on my nose. And by the time we got back to the bench, that white towel was red, and my heart was beating, and blood was pumping out of my nose. And I was screaming, "My nose in my brain, my nose in my brain." So that was really traumatic and really bad. But what happened after that, I went to the Cleveland Clinic, and they stopped the bleeding, and they put 3 yards of gauze up each nostril. And so I wasn't the tubes in my nose got clogged up, and so I wasn't smart enough to go back to get them unclogged. And so I basically slept with my mouth open, and my mouth would crack and bleed. My tongue would crack and bleed at night, and that was even worse. So at that time, Matt, I prayed this prayer. I'll never forget. This was like in the attic in Lakewood, Ohio. And I said, "Lord, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Will you help me?" I prayed. I was like, "This sucks, man. Like, I'm terrible." And so I finished out the season there. I ended up joining the Air Force, and I processed out of Cleveland, Ohio, and I landed in Spangdahlem, Germany, October 4 of 1994. And now, at the time I left playing hockey, that was like May, June. Well, I went to basic in May.
I gotta throw a question in here,
Yeah.
Dave, real quick. Did you play another hockey game?
No.
I can't imagine how you would.
No, I mean, I went from second line center, power play, penalty kill to not even dressing. I was awful.
No.
My self-image, my confidence, all gone. I was sitting. I remember getting on the bus and going to Indianapolis to play in Indianapolis Ice, and I'm like getting my stuff off the bus, and the coach is like, "Hey, man," this was 3 weeks after. Coach is like, "Hey, just leave your stuff. Just leave your stuff on the bus.
Just
You're not
no
playing
point.
tonight. No, you're not playing tonight." And I remember sitting in the stands going, I've never sat in the stands.
Yeah.
Like I was, and so it was awful, man. I told people I felt like I was on a curb in a city I'd never been in. I was lost, man. I was an Easter egg on Christmas. I was lost.
All right, so you end up in Germany with the Air Force. Keep going.
With the Air Force.
I kind of had to process that. Like I can't imagine you would. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I thought I could, but I didn't. So from May till October was some time. I had some healing in there and some emotional healing. I got away from the sport a little bit. And so when I landed in Germany, I was like, okay, is there a hockey rink around here? And so I think I asked like 5 people, and 4 of them said no. And then the 5th person said, there's a hockey rink in Bitburg, which is like 20 minutes over town from us. And I go over there, and there's a tryout for the professional hockey team. And I'm like, this is cool. Can I try out? And they're like, who are you? I'm like, well, can I try out? And so I tried out, and they only allowed 2 foreigners on the team. And so before I could sign my foreigner's card, my player's card, I had to get my commander to sign off on this. So he said, hey, before you sign, let me come watch you play. He came out actually and watched me play and said, yeah, man, like you can sign your card. You're pretty good. So I signed the card. I got off base housing. So I'm in Spangdahlem Air Base, Germany, at Spangdahlem Air Base, which is kind of down the street from Rheinstein. And then Rhein-Main used to be right there too. But so anyway, I basically, for 3.5 years, I was in phase. I was an F-16 crew chief and mechanic, and I would go to work from 7:30 to 4, and I would go to hockey practice in the evening. Weekends were off. I got American holidays off, got German holidays off. Anytime there was a tournament or a game away, they would just let me go. And so while I was in the Air Force, I played pro hockey, and I got paid for the Air Force, and it was the coolest thing, man. I was like living the dream.
There's no way you could have planned that, but
No.
The fact that it worked out is fantastic.
It's right when I was getting ready to out process. It's kind of a fun story. So when you out process, you kind of shut down. You're kind of going from like admin to admin, and signing papers. I ran into a guy who did the exact same thing I did, except he was a golfer. And so I was like, yeah, man, like I played hockey and I kind of was here. How on wasn't. And he's like, I did the same thing. I was a pretty good golfer. I was an enlisted guy. And he's like, you know what? These officers would come over and they need somebody to play with. So they would look for somebody. I just ended up playing golf and being in the Air Force. I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Nice.
Man. Yeah.
So you get out. So you get, 4 years in the Air Force. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we have a whole nother line of questioning here, because as you just said, now you have your doctorate, and I know that it's hard for you to be a hockey player and in the Air Force at the same time, but I know that you can't fit a lot of school in there as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious when that schooling took off, and when how you started to make those progress and changes to become, have your own ad agency, be an author, and do what you do now.
Yeah. So basically what happened was, in the off season, I would basically, there was University of Maryland European Division. Now it's called Global Campus through the University of Maryland. I would just take classes. The Air Force was paying about 70% of my tuition. So I was like, I got to do this. And I would just jam as many classes in as possible. So I started that process when I first arrived in Germany. So I ended up graduating with my bachelor's degree, right? I ended up out processing with my bachelor's degree, Air Force veteran, and played pro hockey.
Man, that's a lot for 4 years.
Yeah, I jammed it in, man.
That's fantastic. So then what was your degree in?
Business management.
Okay. So that makes sense into what you're doing now. And run me and on that question, what are you doing now?
What am I doing now?
Yeah. Tell me what, like right now, don't tell me the whole backstory, but like, you run into a party and say, hey, what do you do? What's the pitch?
The pitch is vision. I love vision. The pitch is, I feel like most of us say that, what do I do? How I make money. I don't believe that anymore. Like, I believe that I'm a husband. I believe I'm a father. I believe I'm a business owner. I believe I'm an executive coach. I believe I'm a veteran. I believe I'm, there's lots of things I believe. So I look at vision really of where we're going. And honestly, this kind of curtails into what happened to me when I said I was left on a curb in a city I'd never been. My identity was so wrapped up in as a hockey player. Yeah. That's just a lie, man. I'm not a hockey player. I believe that I have a vision for my life, and I want to glorify the Lord with my talents and my abilities. And how do I do it? I have to take this sort of feeling of what I want to do, right? I want to unify. I found out what is holding me back. Sometimes I'm good at it. Sometimes I'm not. I'm a sinner saved by grace, just like everybody else, And I say, okay, what is pulling this all together? And I look at vision that does that. So my vision is to unify excellence in the marketplace. I do that through a number of different ways, through my relationship with my kids, relationship with my wife. Again, it's not always awesome, but I try. I do my best, And so I say, so I own an ad agency. I own one of the largest Christian ad agencies in the world. It's awesome. I started that off of prayer. Everything has been like, the glue has been prayer and following what I feel like is the Holy Spirit. And I've got sort of checks and balances of what God is trying to tell me. I've never heard an audible voice from the Lord. Just feel like this unction, this intuition that I need to go do this, and this is going to be good for the world. And it's not in like self-indulgence, like it's truly,
that's it.
It's empathetic, to the world. Yes. And I want to help, and I want to grow, and I want to have so I'm talking a lot there. So
your athlete probably spends hours working on the specific skill set they need for their sport. And they probably spend hours in the weight room building their body. But how much time do they spend intentionally training their mind? Well, building mindset is the key to bridging the gap between the skills that we see and game execution. Well, Mental Mettle Coaching provides individual programs that can help your athlete develop this third and crucial skill set.
Sorry.
No, it's fantastic. I'm seeing things that, like, there's a whole line of different questions rolling through my head as you're talking, and I'm just thinking about, I can't help but think of all these God ordained things that happened for you and I to sit here and have this conversation today, right? Like, in the sense that a hockey puck to the face is probably, you can find a fair, like, delineation your life before and after that, right? I'm sitting here as a result of something that not as painful and acutely painful, but it's a battle pack from cancer and a stroke that was not something neither one of those things are something we would wish on somebody, yet they lead us to where we are today, which I don't know about you, and I'm guessing I love where I'm at today.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to reconcile that sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like there are times when I'm a pretty smart dude, and there's times when I feel like I'm a pretty dumb dude. Yeah. And I feel like, that wake up call of a slap shot in the face couldn't wake me up anymore. And okay, we're gonna, I kind of look at like a navigation system in your car. You got a destination, but you take a wrong turn, man. And the nav just kind of takes you back to those side routes and takes you where, it's not the most efficient way to go, but we're going to get you back to where you need to be. And so, like, sometimes it's just a puck to the head to wake you up and say, dude, you're going the wrong direction, Yeah. And so, it's a wake up call. If you believe that, there is a intelligent design to this whole thing.
Well, and that's the problem for a lot of people when those things like happen and they don't have the self-correcting navigation system, then you are lost. And that's that's the thing, is like, if you can have that faith when those wrong turns happen, and at least you have this system that will help you recorrect. It may not be the most efficient, but you might also find things along the way that you're like, hey, we never would have found this pizza place if we hadn't this happen. And it's like, you just never know, but you've got to have that navigation system that's helping, and that you have to trust a little bit.
Yeah,
we're getting heavy into the metaphors here, aren't we?
I know. That's awesome. That's why I just as a Christian, you just go, all right, yeah, man, we're sinners saved by grace. Nothing's perfect out there, but there is a blueprint. There is a map. It's called your Bible. Read it, and do the best that you can, man, and pull some people along the ride with you. It's not all about you.
Yeah, agreed. I love all that, and I want to get into a little bit on these toxic motivators.
Yeah.
You and I, when we had our first conversation, we had I felt like an epiphany moment that we both feel very strongly about these toxic motivators. And I just speak to that for a minute about what you mean by toxic motivator.
Yeah. So basically, first of all, let's just say that there's lots of toxic motivators out there. And if we break this down, there's just lots of things that influence us in an ineffective way. So these are what I perceive through research as the more popular ones that are out there. So this would be your fear, your lust, your anger, and your pride. And so the whole idea is the agenda. That's like, you and I are like, we're sports guys, so we got to know like who's across the line of scrimmage from us, who we're lining up against. And I feel like a lot of times we get lost in that maybe it isn't a game, but in the way I perceive it, it is a game, and there is an adversary, and he doesn't want you to glorify the Lord with your talents and your abilities. So what can I do to get Matt off his game? Well, fear. Yeah. If I can show Matt a lot of fear around this, right? Avoiding pain, loss, failure, if I can help him do that, then I'll get him off his game. The opposite of fear would be faith, be love.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at lust, oh my gosh, lust for people, power, possessions, a lot of times we think of lust as something that's taboo. We're not allowed to talk about it, but there's a lot of, pornography out there. That was never my thing, but I know it's a lot of people's thing. So like, if I can get you, Matt, to invest in porn, you're not
Well,
following what Christ is doing for your life. So
exactly.
that's easy.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like that's like, I'm on the line of scrimmage. I'm across against lust. Now it might not be pornography, but it might be power or people or possessions, more commas in my bank account, and so like I go, okay, I got you, lust. I identify who you are. You're not going to win. I'm going to focus over here. I'm going to be humble. Anger. Anger is something super easy, right? And it's acceptable. Coming out of COVID, it's acceptable. We're supposed to tolerate that, where that's an ineffective, toxic motivator. Fear, lust, anger, pride. Now we're talking about, defensiveness, domination, lack of empathy, being in control, narcissism. Like if each one of these were an enterprise of money being spent to drive you in this, it's probably a 3-to-1 ratio versus humility. I was just having this conversation with a pastor earlier today saying, do you schedule your humility, pastor? And he's like, what? What do you mean? I'm like, well, like for me, everything's in a schedule, right? Like we're always busy. If I don't stop and say, man, I'm so thankful. Like life could be so much different right now, and it's not. And like, so I schedule it, so like I like to golf, so I golf a couple times a week, and it's like, like every 9 holes I go, all right, man, like I got to find a place where I go, this is awesome, man. Like this is so cool. Instead of getting wrapped up in my shot or my score or what people are saying to me, like schedule your humility. Another trick that he gave, which I thought was really cool, was like, every time you eat, be thankful.
Yep. Well, and that's the whole thing about like when we get in, like even speaking or like say eating or a sport, and just, I mean, when a lot of coaches and a lot of mental health is talking about mindfulness and it gets thrown out, well, that's what it is about like taking a moment for what's going on, what you're enjoying, what that's like. And I mean, there's so much what you're saying with those toxic motivators, and I can't help but listen when you talk about all these things that we shouldn't have and the things that we have. Every time I hear those, I just listen. I go through. I'm not good at remembering the actual verses, but the words of like the Apostle Paul and what he says to write to the Ephesians and all those, and like just like it's really clear, these things that we allow to motivate us and guide us are so, it's very clear. Like when we talk about anger, do not let don't go to letting anger gives the devil a foothold. And it's like these things that we think are is okay, but they're like this it's a black and white thing, man. It's like, if we're having anger, then we're not having faith and love. And it's really, you can't have both. You have to lean into, well, faith, hope, and love. Just like, it always cracks me up that verse that they read at weddings about the greatest of these that is not like when Paul wrote that was not for a wedding. That was everyday life, right? Faith, hope, love. The greatest of these is love. That's what we're supposed to practice. That's not aimed at our spouse. That's not, that's every day, man.
Yeah. I kind of, it is very black and white. I wish it wasn't, but in this case it is. Like if you don't have anger, if you're angry, you don't have peace.
No.
They can't coexist.
Yeah. And I think then let's talk about, we talk about these things and lining up against them, and we're talking about playing a football or hockey, which are, somewhat violent sports, and you have to go out there and be aggressive. And there's a lot of people that equate that aggression to anger and power. And I just trying to make people to realize that that's not what's the best for you. Like you can be aggressive, you can play your sport as with all sorts of success, and you can be good at your sport, but it doesn't have to come from one of these toxic motivators.
That's right. So this is a really super important point right here. So when you talk about a motivator, it's a driving force that compels you to action but produces destructive outcomes.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. So what a healthy
Well, but the
man,
problem is, let me have a caveat there.
yeah.
It can give you some positive outcomes in the short term.
Yes, especially lust. Lust is all about self-gratification.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is where I want to bring, you're going to love this analogy. Okay. So I'm going to bring in some more terminology and then we'll fast forward. So there's emotional intelligence. Okay. So in high emotional intelligence, I believe in the team. I believe in my coach. I believe in my teammates, right? I respect the officials and I'm going to play the game hard. And if it doesn't go my way, it's okay, because you know what's more important? My teammates and my organization. That's high EI. It's high emotional intelligence. Low emotional intelligence is, I don't care about my coach. I don't care about penalties. I'll take care of that. You know, it's on me. I will do what's necessary to regulate this system of justice. Since the refs aren't doing it, I'll take life in my own hands.
Yes.
So if somebody punches me, I'm just going to punch them back. Somebody slashed me, I'm going to slash them back. These people in sports are the most exhausting people to be around because they're, you know these people.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So when you're low EI on a team, it's clear it's about self-gratification and lust and pride and narcissistic behavior. This is not producing life-giving outcomes. Where it shifts, and it's just a real small detail, but it's huge, is that the driving force compels you. You're not compelling it. Vision is not leading you. The emotions are leading you. So so now what's the vision of you being on this team? Well, the vision of this is on the team is for me to be in a power channel, which means I'm trusting, calm, loose, relaxed, focused, in control, confident. I'm gonna be the best version of myself so I can glorify the Lord with my talents, my abilities. Yeah. This is a high EI. Yeah. Low EI is the opposite of that. Low EI is I'm heated, tight, tense, stressed, awkward, panic, rushed, frustrated, anxious, confused, overloaded, but I'm going to do my best. And if I don't get what I don't get my own, I'm just going to take it out on everybody else. I don't care. This is destructive. This leaves a wake of devastation behind you of like all the relationships you terminate. Like, to me, it's very clear. It's either productive or non-productive.
Well, what's even really cool about that is I just hear you say that, and you're describing. And some people really can't get past this, the idea of playing in what they would say a parasympathetic state, which is where you're nice and calm and everything, or this sympathetic, which is fight or flight. Yeah. And people think, well, you can't play. I was watching some athlete the other day and he was warming up, or it was right before the game, and he was yawning. And everybody was like, look at that guy. He's not. And I'm like, listen, that's how he should be. He should be nice and calm and in control, because that guy that's like in fight or flight the whole game, it's physically and mentally damaging to the health. Yeah. Beyond all these other things that we're talking about with Christ and everything else, it's physically and mentally damaging to an individual. Yeah. Yeah. And so like I love watching sports now, Matt, with the idea of a low and high EI. You can see it a mile away. Yes. It's so much fun to watch games like that. Okay, so this is a fun little story. I was coaching a 12U hockey team, AAA U12 team. And this Kevin was my captain, and he knew, like, I had talked about high and low EI like for months. This is like his second or third year with me. Yeah. And we were in this game, and the coach was yelling at the referees, like swearing emphatically at the referees. He was low EI. And Kevin comes over to the bench, is like, hey, coach, you see the other coach? He's low EI. We're going to win the game now. I'm like, that's right, Kevin, we are. Because he wasn't coaching his team. He was low EI. He was just all about him and his self-gratification. Yeah. So I think that's a misnomer too, to think that, sometimes low EI wins, because there's a million factors that, and again, in the short term, like a low EI individual with high talent
Well,
can win a lot of games.
Yeah, in the moment they can win,
Yeah.
but long term they don't.
Well, it's how you, when we use the word win, if you're talking about a scoreboard or a season, absolutely. But
Yeah.
that's, again, and that's what we're talking about when we get into that, talk about our identity, right?
Mhm.
So you can be a really good hockey player, but have that not be your identity.
Yes.
And so, and that's the whole thing about, like, my identity is in Christ, or if it's an individual, not religious, but it's, my identity is high EI, and I want to win, but that's not everything.
That's right.
And the problem is that bothers a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like to say, I'm going to be prepared, Matt. I'm going to put a lot of repetition behind it. I'm going to be rested. I'm going to be strong, as strong as I can be. And I'm going to be prepared for this game. So, like, I'm going to do everything to glorify the Lord. Like, I'm going to put on Ephesians 6, the armor of God, and we're going to go after it. And you know what? And if you beat me in that, then there's some things I need to change. Right? And that's cool, because now I can learn from you. Versus, Matt, I'm going to beat the tar out of you. And, if you win, I'm going to hate you for the rest of my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's a bad place to be. I was there for many years. And you know what happened to me? I found myself, I didn't like myself. I was like, I don't want to.
Because you're equating your self-worth to wins and losses, and you'll never win enough to like yourself.
Because when you compare yourself to others, you find the best in them, and you compare them to the worst of you. You can't win.
Well, now we're talking social media. That's the whole thing. Seeing everybody's best. Yeah, but we know our worst.
That's right.
So,
welcome to Mental Mettle Coaching, where our mission is to help you learn to thrive in the face of adversity, not just survive it. We are passionate about empowering you to live, play, and work with a resilient and spirited mindset. Hi, I'm Matt Toman. I'm an ICF professional coach and keynote speaker. My background as an athlete, basketball coach, teacher, and school administrator has equipped me with the insights that resonate deeply with the schools, teams, athletes, and coaches I work with. However, it's my personal journey through anxiety, cancer, and an ischemic stroke in 2020 that truly brings authenticity to my presentations. While learning to speak and write again, I also pursued and earned my ICF coaching certification. Now the practices I embrace are more than theoretical concepts. They're a way of life. Developing a positive mindset is within reach for all, but it requires self-awareness and the repetition of intentional activities. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we'll guide you, your staff, and your students on this transformative journey. Together, let's forge your mettle.
So I hear you talking in there, some of the stuff you said about planning for things, and that made me think of your new book coming up, Plan to Win. And I'm just curious what I know what it feels like to be writing a book, and it's just in your brain, right? So I can hear what you're saying there. Tell me about the book and these ideas for Plan to Win.
Yeah, so I mean, this is basically it. This is what we're talking about here, is identifying, what the toxic motivators are. It's going to be an application book. Very much a productivity application book for, okay, I don't even know if I'm struggling with this. Am I struggling with this? Like, I have an assessment you can take. In fact, I have an assessment you can take now. I'll leave it for you as a follow-up. You can take it now and say, which toxic motivator? It's 7 questions, super easy. Then you can answer the question, say, okay, this is what I'm struggling with. And then I've got like devos that go with each one of those things that you're a 5-day devo. So if you're struggling with fear, there's a 5-day devo on overcoming fear. By the way, I do want to say this too, is just a general note. This isn't something that you overcome and like it's gone. Everybody struggles with at least 2 of these all the time. It's like stress. Like stress, you don't get rid of, you manage it. You find ways to not be stressful. You find ways to not be fearful. You find ways not to be lustful. So this isn't me being perfect. This is, okay, here are these toxic motivators that you may or may not be struggling with. How do I overcome those? And what am I even struggling with? Because I know for me, sometimes I don't know what a lot of times, I don't know what I don't know. Like, oh, I am struggling with that? Oh, okay, yeah, let's go. you know?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting as a couple coaches here talking about helping people get better at things. Like, it's not to stay positive and confident in yourself while also finding what you struggle at.
Yeah.
That's a real skill that I think
That
that because you can't just sit here and take assessments and be like, oh man, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that. Like, it's about recognizing that and being like, all right, so I'm human. Let's go forward.
Yeah, I think the world tends to use this word judgment a lot, judging, like we're judging. The Bible
Mhm.
talks about being a fruit inspector. And I think
Yeah.
if you're mindful, you say, okay, I am struggling with a little bit of lust. Like, okay, yeah, I'm struggling with it. What does my fruit look like? Is my fruit rotten? Does it stink? Does
Yeah.
your fruit stink, man? Or
Yeah,
is it fresh
exactly.
fruit? Like, and so you just
Yeah.
be honest with yourself. Like, yeah, I was honest with myself, said my fruit sucks, man. I don't even like being around me. I need to change. That's why I'm so thankful I bumped into a Christian mentor that gave me 30 books. This is back when we had TV. He said, Dave, if you don't like who you are, turn off the TV, read these books. And it took me 2 years to read these 30 books. And I still have the rocking chair that I went up to on my platform in my
Yeah.
townhome. And I remember reading these books, and then it changed my life, man.
Yeah. I nothing like having a mentor and having good, credible, just books to read and information to, like, there's so much out there, man. And thinking about, again, like choosing that path and better yourself and gain more knowledge versus turn on the TV or looking at your phone. It's a daily struggle. But worth chasing.
I think so, man. I think, when you feel fulfilled, it's that helping others and being empathetic, versus that self-gratification or that lustful, like ickiness. But the world says, okay, yeah, man, dude, Matt, you just got a Ferrari, like you just bought another house, you got a lake home, you're crushing life, and like, on the inside, like I might be a little empty, man. Like what's really fulfilling me? Not this possession stuff, buying new cars and boats.
Yeah.
Like I want to feel fulfilled. Like that to me is like successful. And, glorifying the Lord with our talents and our abilities is successful. Like, thank you, Jesus, for life, right, Matt? Like, you overcame cancer, dude. Like, that's incredible.
Well, what's interesting about that? It's like sometimes I want to talk to people about a lot of the things that I put out there, and you and I talk about a lot of the same things. And I'm always, when I get up and speak to a front of a group, and I always feel it's interesting because it's when I talk about I'm here because of what happened to me, and it's this big set of circumstances that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
And I get that. But yet I know that that's extreme circumstance helped me grow in my faith, helped me do what I'm doing and helping more people now. Sometimes I struggle to talk to people when things like that haven't happened to them. And I don't know, it's harder to motivate when things like that. And there really isn't a question there, Dave. It's just something I struggle with, and I don't know what to do with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of feel like, so I had a client years ago. His name is Joe Schmidt. And Joe sold his company for some crazy amount of money. It was like 9 figures of money. And so he reached out to me, and we basically worked together on starting one of the largest modern anti-slavery organizations in the world. It's called Freedom United. And he had this T-shirt, and the T-shirt said, "It's an unfair fight." And on the back of it, it had how many billions of dollars are contributing towards modern day slavery, which if you look at the pie of slavery, work slavery is like, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's just call the whole industry $2 billion. It was like $1.5 billion is towards work slavery, and the rest is sex slavery. And so he said, okay, how much money is fighting against this? And it was like $100 million. It's like, like an unfair fight. And so I think about, Matt, I think about like you and me as men and women of God that are doing the best. We're not perfect, right? But we're doing the best
Right.
we can. And like the money that's going towards fear, lust, anger, pride, like the flap, right?
Mm.
And it's up to us as Christians to communicate the gospel through humility, through faith, right? Through love. Like how, like, that's why I just want to encourage people around me now to go, okay, man, like fight the fight in your own kind of way. Cause it's working. You can't see it, but it's working, man. Your testimony, who else is going to do it but you or me?
You know, and
You know what I mean?
I love
So
that because you're right. It is an unfair fight, but that doesn't mean it's not worth. It's still a fight worth fighting.
It's still a fight worth fighting.
You got a marketing agency, so you understand sex sells, right?
Yeah.
And that's. But I don't even know anything about what you do in your marketing, but I guarantee that's not that's not how you do things, right? So it makes it harder.
Yeah, but not impossible. And like you said,
But not impossible.
But not a fight not worth fighting. Yeah.
Yeah. Man. So let's and we've talked about it a little bit in and out, but you wanted to talk about, we've talked a lot about other things you wanted to, but just the importance and the struggles with following Christ in your daily life, in your work, in everything, and just some of the struggles with that and why, and what keeps us from doing that.
It's such a battle, man. It just is. I mean, I was telling this to my wife this past weekend. Like, I think the gambling industry has made a significant investment in making gambling fun. It's everywhere. DraftKings is everywhere.
Yeah.
And so like it's just so easy and so socially accepted to do these things. Gambling, and I'm saying that gambling is, well, it is definitely a sin thing, but I think when it becomes a problem is when it owns you.
Yeah.
You know, when that motivator is basically driving your decision making versus you driving decision making. Like if you're on top of it and do it, I don't, like whatever. But like,
yeah, but you're talking about the slippery slope argument, which is like, in Christ said, if your right hand causes you to sin, then cut it off, right? And that's a whole nother, like when you talk about things become commonplace in society, man,
it's tough. My point of that comment is it's just tough. And so I look at vision. I look at vision as the North Star of what are you doing with your life? And so, is that really something like that is helping others? And at the end of the day, do you fulfill in doing that? You're going to spend 88,000 hours at work. If you're going to do something, you don't want to be miserable doing it. And I think about this power channel we talked about earlier. Like when you're living in Christ, like you are trusting, loose, calm, relaxed, focused, dialed in control. When you're in this weak channel, there's an illustration that this pastor used, and he had a glass of ice, and he was shaking it, and you can hear the ice go ding, 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 ding off the walls, off the glass. And then he got like the same piece of ice, and he put it in a bigger bowl, and he spun it around, and the glass, or the ice in the glass, it doesn't hit the walls. It's not stressed. It doesn't really do anything. And so when you look at Christ and the opportunity that you have, it's freeing. It's infinite opportunities. When the walls are so close to you and there are no options, that's not living a life of abundance, man. That's living in fear.
No. And I love what you said about vision, but the vision is something that we have to choose to have, though.
Yes.
And that's what's so important. Like if you're not thinking about what your vision is, then it's probably not somewhere good, right? It doesn't land somewhere
productive.
That's been productive is the word. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be something that you're like, no, this is my vision. This is what I'm aiming for. This is my North Star. And I'm going to fight to get there. But once you have it, then it helps every decision you make, which lets that stress go.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So I think if you're listening now or watching, it's like, okay, where do I start? You start where you're at. You start by being thankful. You start by being, you start with some faith. You start with perhaps reading your Bible, getting around some other mentors. I heard this great quote once. It said, "You know what? You are the culmination of your 5 friends." That was hard for me. I heard that message too, and I said, "You know what? I don't like where I'm at." And you know what this mentor said? Get a new set of friends.
Yep.
And I was like,
It's
"Man,
hard,
well,
but
it's hard." Like I was saying, it's hard. The world says compromise. The world says, it's okay, but there is a path for you that's super fulfilling. Start where you're at. Look to vision, look to mentors, look for a North Star where you're going. Your identity is not based upon how you make money. That's why I'm
no,
unifying excellence in the
it's
marketplace.
it's not based on scoreboards. It's not based on outcomes. It can't be.
That's right.
Because that's always going to fail you every time.
And it's going to end at some point. That too.
Yes. Yeah. Man.
Terry Bradshaw, is clinically depressed after he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And because he didn't know anything else, he was was his whole vision. And then he did. He went and tried to win another one. He did, and it just helped his depression even more. He's been outspoken about that because of that very reason. His North Star was the outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's again, but you have to consciously choose that vision, and that's not easy. But I think it's good. So. All right, Dave, we're running out of time here because I'm going to have to cut it off because
that was a fast 45 minutes, my man.
It is, man. We could talk forever. But the last question I always ask my guests is, what's the question that I did not ask you that I should have?
Which toxic motivator is motivating you, Dave?
That's a fair question. If you care to answer it, what's the struggle for you?
I struggle with anger, and I struggle with pride.
You and I might be in the same boat there. That's probably the 1-2 punch I would go with. Yeah. It's a struggle.
It's a struggle.
All right, man.
And I have to share that because I think that's the first step is identifying where you're struggling, and I'm okay with saying it because you know what, we're all sinners saved by grace.
Anybody listening that is a regular listener on this podcast knows how I feel about that because I think that vulnerability is it is what opens doors for us for growth. If you're not willing to notice what you struggle at, then you don't have any choice for growth. You're not going to grow. You have to recognize it and you have to be okay with it and you have to let the right people in, right?
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic conversation. Just fantastic. Can't thank you enough for joining. Man.
Love to do it again.
We will. You know what? We'll do that. You get going, get the book out, and maybe we'll come and do this again.
All right. I love it, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Mettle is a person's ability to face adversity in a spirited and resilient manner. It is a great skill to have for athletics and for life, but it is not something we are born with. If you want it, you have to forge your mettle. And if you listen to the Mental Mettle Podcast, you already know that, but not everybody else does yet. So help me out by ordering and wearing some sweet The Mental Mettle Podcast gear. We've got short sleeve tees, long sleeve tees, and some super comfortable hoodies. Order online today and you can have your gear in no time. But the best part is that every order helps support the show and helps me spread the message that mental toughness is a trait that can and should be built. So find the link in the show notes, order your gear, and start showing that you know how to forge your mettle. So Dave is an executive coach. I'm a coach. So I think that Dave would appreciate what I want to do in the follow-up here and in the outro after that interview. And that's that I think you ought to take some time. And what Dave and I just said at that end of the interview is, and Dave did it himself, which was great. It was a question that I said, what did I not ask you that I should have? And he made a point to be able to say, here's my toxic motivators. And I think if you do nothing from this episode, that's what you should be able to do is start to identify what are your toxic motivators. What is it that you sometimes allow to motivate you that is unhealthy and negative. His four were fear, lust, anger, and pride. And that's a scary road to get down. But I think for us to get growth, to see growth in our lives, you have to be vulnerable. I will preach that all the time. I talk about it all the time, that you have to be vulnerable, at least with yourself. It would help if it was an accountability partner, somebody you knew, a mentor or a peer, a coach, a therapist, a pastor, something, but you ought to take some time and identify what are the motivators are you allowing to motivate you, that fear, lust, anger, and pride. And that is, it's not to tear yourself down, obviously, but to identify where you are so that you can rid it, so you can get rid of it. And it's hard to have the vision that he talks about if we have these toxic motivators in our way. And it's not, it just gets us off path. It gets us somewhere we don't want to be. It's creating a fruit, as he talks about, a fruit checking. It creates a fruit that we don't like. So I think it's really important that you do that, is to identify which of the toxic motivators are you sometimes letting guide you. And then once you do that, I think, and you start leaning into faith and creating some gratitude, and as he talks about scheduling humility and doing these other things, then I think you can have a better picture of what your vision is, what you want to become, what you're trying to do for others. And those are the two things I'd love you to start doing after listening to this podcast, is identify what are your what of the four toxic motivators, what do you lean into, what's a struggle for you. And then after you do that, okay, what's my vision and how can I start moving forward in that, actually having a vision. If you don't have a vision, if you don't have a plan for yourself, for your business, for your family, for your relationships, if you don't have that, it's hard to know where you're going, and it's probably not going to be somewhere good. So just a great interview. If you are interested in his stuff, I put all Dave's stuff in the show notes. His marketing agency, which is called MisGood. He's got a couple books out there. The one, I don't think it's out yet. The new one coming up is Plan to Win. He's already got one out that you can get on Amazon. It's called Vision Wins. And so it's all about vision with him. And he was clear about that. So he likes the idea of selling vision and helping others with vision. So if you're interested in anything Dave does, check out his stuff. I put his website in the notes, so check it out. And I'm sure I'm gonna check out some of Dave's stuff too. So just after talking to him, and I almost guarantee I'm gonna have him back on, because it was a really good interview, because I learned stuff every time I get somebody like that. Another coach on here, somebody does something like what I do, they give me different ways to look at things. It does a couple things. It helps me. It bolsters what I'm trying to do, and to find that other people are saying things the same way I am, and that it's helping when they do their coaching. But it also helps me, different ways to say it and look at it and think differently. So I gain something from a conversation with somebody like Dave. So both those things are just great. So as always, thanks for listening. Do not forget, like, share, subscribe, take a podcast episode of the Mental Mettle Podcast, and find somebody and say how it applies to them, and send it to them. I would really appreciate that. Really appreciate you. It helps the algorithm, but it also just helps grow and makes more of the ripples that I'm trying to do. And that's part of my vision. So I appreciate that. So, but for now, this has been the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Toman, and always remember to forge your metal. Thanks for listening to the Mental Mettle Podcast. Don't forget to tune in every week for more insights and strategies to help you forge mental toughness and resilience. This podcast is brought to you by Mental Mettle Coaching, where we are driven by a passion for sharing knowledge and experience that empowers others to play, live, and grow with confidence. Our mission is to instill a resilient and spirited mindset in our clients, enabling them to confidently face adversity and actively seek new challenges for personal growth. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we offer individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses. Whether you're an athlete, educator, or professional, we're here to help you unlock your potential and thrive in every area of life. Until next time, keep growing, stay resilient, and always remember to forge your mettle.